culture that he builds, and I wanted to come be a part of that. And obviously, it's kind of fun to be in the room with him also and get into his mind when it comes to offense. And so all those things are very attractive to me. And combine that with 76-degree weather, I was like, I'm in.
Hey, Coach, Mark Holtzman, USC.com. So you come from the SEC footprint, recruiting offensive line down there, it's fairly easy. How do you shift gears and say, all right, guys, I'm out here to tackle and I'm following you and coach you about that?
Well, I think the main thing with that is the SC offensive line tradition. When you look at SC offensive line tradition, it is arguably the best in the country. You know, if you're going to take maybe the top 10 offensive line of all time in the NFL, for those guys could arguably be SC Trojans between Munoz, Baselli, Matthews, and Tyron Smith. So that type of tradition, that type of history, you know, and in the last 3 years, SC offensive lines had 2 first-round draft picks. So all of those things to me are going to help us attract some of the top talent in the country. So that type of tradition is number one. Number two, you know, I've got to take my success and track record and explain that to the guys and show it to them so that they understand that we can help them get where they want to go and we can build a great offensive line here. But I would tell you this, it's been interesting so far, you know, having offered kids at 2 different schools from the same kids over this last recruiting cycle and even for next year. The reaction to SC is very positive. It's very positive. And so that's got me excited about what the future can be here in the offensive line.
Hey Josh, Dave Grigson with the Associated Press. What do you know about the group of players you're inheriting? Did you recruit any of them at your previous stop?
Recruited a couple of them. We were just kind of, man, you know, we had enough players in that part of the world to make it work. And so we came out and recruited a couple of guys that were on this list. Obviously, they chose SC and stayed out in this part of the world. But I've had the opportunity to get out so far a couple of times with just walkthroughs and you know, watch these guys do a couple of workouts and different things. I like what I see so far. I think these guys are very dedicated. They're excited. They're hungry. They want to win. It's important to them. And I think the older guys in our program understand what's at stake and how much work it takes to win. Winning is hard. It's not easy. And they understand that the common denominator in winning all of the time is work. And they're doing that right now. So from an attitude standpoint, I'm very pleased with where our line is at and the way they've attacked this thing, just being here for the first month. And so we just got to continue that and keep it up, and good things will happen.
Hey Josh, I'm Bruce Clark from the Richmond Register. We know McPhee is a little bit more hands-on with the offense than a lot of head coaches. What were those conversations like with him about how you guys would collaborate during the process, and just kind of how do you expect that to play out?
Well, number one, Coach Riley is the play caller, and the play caller's vision is always going to be the vision for the offense. So my job is to support him. It's to bring some new ideas, maybe some new thoughts, present those, and maybe some supplemental things that I think can make the offense better. But that's a secondary role. My primary role is just to support Coach Riley, make sure that the things we're doing, be there to double check, make sure the things we're doing are going to give us the best chance for success, and then obviously it's always a collaborative effort. Coach Riley said that yesterday, and it is. I've had a great time so far being in the room with him talking football over the last month, and it is a collaborative effort, and there's a lot of great ideas in there. But right now, what we're really doing is I'm learning his mind. I'm learning his way of thinking about offensive football. And then after we get through these first couple of months, then we can kind of start maybe talking about some different things. But right now, my primary job is to learn his offense, learn his way of thinking, and then support that the best way possible. Well, the biggest thing with offensive lineman, number one, is frame. You know, they've got to have a frame to be able to carry a certain amount of weight to be effective at this level, and really to get to the level where we want to go. That's to play for and win national championships. And so guys can be underweight, but they can't be undersized. Their frame can't be too small to eventually carry that weight. Now, in a perfect world, you're finding guys that are athletic and they have the weight and the frame, it's all there. But sometimes you find those guys, sometimes you don't. Every class you're going to have both. But we're looking for, basically from an offensive lineman, we're looking for the frame, then we're looking for athleticism, we're looking for flexibility and bend and foot quickness. And then the last thing I'm always going to evaluate is strain. I want to see guys that strain on film, that play hard, that love to play the game, that play it for the right reasons. And that's what we're looking for. And if we can find guys that mark all those boxes from a physical standpoint, then we feel pretty good about it. The rest of it's why they call us coach. But I think the other component that you can never, that you always have to consider, you can never shortchange his character. And so you try to create a bigger picture of a guy, what he does in the classroom, his grades, how he takes care of things, how he treats the people around his school, you know, who he is off the field as a person. And so you're trying to find, if you can find great athleticism, great strength, great character, those are guys you can build championship football teams around.
Hey, Coach, Gerard Martinez, USCfootball.com, 24/7 Sports. First of all, congratulations on the job. First question was Bobby Haskins, a guy that transferred in from Virginia before you actually kind of got here. Talk a little bit about him and just what you see from him and carrying a guy like that. And then the second question just being Caleb. Caleb Williams comes in. How does a guy like that that's dynamic, mobile, move the pocket help you? Or how is it, different coaching for a guy that's mobility and can kind of escape the pocket and never really know what he's going to do?
Well, first, Bobby is going to be an integral part of our line next year. You know, he's obviously very athletic. He's played a lot of football in a good conference, Power 5 conference, and been very effective. I looked at him at the last school I was at, really liked it. And when I heard that he was coming to SC and I was taking this job here, I was very excited about it. Now, after meeting him in person, you know, pertaining to him fitting in, I love his attitude. And he has come in, he's already like one of the members of the team. And that's just because Bobby wants to have brotherhood. He understands the team concept, team camaraderie, and he's done an absolutely unbelievable job of that. And so transitioning to Caleb, just being around him for a couple of days, I see a lot of the same characteristics in him from an attitude, character standpoint. He gets it that the team comes first. And the best thing he can do is to rally the team and be part of the team, part of the brotherhood, and that is priority number one for Caleb and for Bobby, and that's one of our big challenges with all. You know, I think Coach Riley addressed this yesterday. It's a unique time with a lot of transfer guys coming in. We've got to get this team to mesh together like they've been together for 2 or 3 seasons, and that all comes through our daily habits, how we do things every day. But to answer your question about Caleb and his athleticism, obviously, I think, you know, that's why everybody's so excited. You know, I mean, you look at him on film, you see what he did last year at Oklahoma. I remember a play against Kansas where the running back was stopped for short of the first down, and he grabs and strips the ball out of the running back's hand and goes and gets a first down. And I'm just like, wow, the awareness, the instincts of that play at that time were just really phenomenal. So I think his athleticism, obviously, when you've got an athletic quarterback that can extend plays, get out of trouble, it obviously helps your offense to operate, and it helps you kind of make those big plays at certain times in the games when you really need them.
We have time for one more. If anybody wants to take one last one? Okay. Perfect. The last one.
What did you learn from your first 3 years as an offensive coordinator at Missouri and on that experience?
you know, y'all probably, my tenure there, it started out really well. It didn't end as well after 1 year free. We had a lot of things that happened that year, injury wise. We lost seven of our starters by game 3 for the season. So it was kind of a wild year. I've never been in a year like that, but there's no excuses. That's just the way it is. No one cares. You know, you perform or you don't. I would tell you this: some of the general things I've learned were to always be positive. Uh, Always make lemonade out of lemons. Lemons are going to happen every day in life. They're going to happen all the time in football. Always be moving forward. The second thing I learned is if you believe in something, stick to it. Don't get talked out of it. Stay in it. Stick to it. Teach it. Get your guys to execute it. Believe in it. And make sure the details are right. And if you get the details right, you can execute and win at a high level. And I think that was my time as an offensive coordinator. The last thing I would say is that, you know, you want to make it a collaborative effort as much as you can, but at the end of the day, somebody's leading the room. You know, and pertaining like Coach Riley, and then Coach Riley's leading the room. So if he said, Josh, that's the way to do it, I'm saying, yes, sir. I'm going to go get it done that way. Because we all benefit when we win, and so I think the leadership component of that, and I've really enjoyed that out of Coach Riley so far. I've enjoyed being around that. I can feel that little that kind of intensity to his personality. So I think he understands that and knows it. He's got a really nice balance between collaboration and leading, and so to me, that's what it's all about when you're the guy in charge. And some of those things I learned as an OC, and I look back and say, man, I could have bet see Coach Riley doing really well, so it's got me excited about the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you for joining us via Zoom.
Thank you. All right, guys, I couldn't be there in person, and look forward to meeting all of you.
been excited to be along for the ride here with Coach Riley here early in the process as we work to build this thing. So let it rip. Yeah, it was a unique opportunity just from a timing standpoint with the single game left for the guys. So I had an opportunity to go out there to a couple practices to, like you said, have an opportunity to evaluate. I think it's a minimal evaluation. That's a responsible thing to do. I mean, some of the things in terms of schematically and all those things, and some guys are at different stages from a health standpoint, that late in the season. But I think the biggest thing as we go into this thing, as we evaluate the rosters, is number one, saying, okay, where are we deficient, and be real honest about that evaluation. Also, with that, is don't simply raise a bunch of red flags, or sound a bunch of alarms based on minimal evaluations. And so I go back to that week and saying, okay, there's a little bit of a baseline here. You got a little bit of an understanding who's played, and keep it in that very specific category. And then as we've come back here in these first couple weeks, January now into February, is now evaluate them based on now we get to what are they weighing, how are they moving from a position standpoint, and then combine that with some of the things that they've done in the past. And so with that, what we need to do is make sure that we're enhancing the roster, number one. And so, okay, where are we deficient? Sometimes it's easy to identify those things, but most importantly is we got to enhance those individuals within our program right now. And so there's a lot to be done in a short period of time. But what you saw was, I think, a fairly competitive group, and that's something that's kind of early on in the process. Saying a lot of guys looking to compete, which is a good starting point.
And then when you ask your question, I know it's repetitive. If you could say your name and what affiliate you're with, just lots of new faces for everybody. Go ahead.
Coach, Ryan Young, TrojanSports.com. How would you explain your defensive scheme? How has it evolved over your time as a player?
Yeah, I think it's constantly evolving. I mean, I think the game has changed. I think one of the things is, as you go through it, we kind of took this system. Kind of the core of this system back when we were at the University of Missouri, so that's in the SEC. That's 10 years ago now. But it was designed with a single gap approach in terms of the defensive front, so allowing guys to play in the gaps as opposed to playing in the men. And what that produced was the opportunity for guys, again, in our defensive front to have production. We took that system out to the Pac-12 at Washington State, and saw similar outcomes and similar results that way. And then with that, the coverage schemes that are used behind it, a lot of it ties into the RPO that became so prevalent in college football, again, over the last decade. And so, marrying that up with that, again, single gap mindset in the front. And then adapted it, again, taking it out to the Big 12 at Oklahoma. And you're seeing a little bit less in the quarterback run game and more of the RPO. What used to be kind of teams would dabble in it, now it has a tendency to every single down of football has about 3 plays you got to defend, where it's a jet sweep action, the receiver's going downfield and they can hand off the football, and the quarterback can carry it. So in any event, as I would describe it, again, a single gap approach, we use the term downhill. We want guys playing in the opponent's backfield. Have an opportunity for guys to be competitive in coverage, impede receivers' ability to run the route that is called. And so we want to put, as best we can, not cover grass, but instead cover men. So that's the back end approach. And ultimately, what we want is, the space and speed game that is college football, and obviously the same thing in the NFL. But to make sure that from a personnel standpoint, that we have the necessary speed to be very competitive that way, take away the space that so often offenses are trying to take advantage of.
Alex Frazier, Dan Greenspan with the Associated Press. One of the knocks on SC's defense the past few years has been that they've not been a group that tackles well. How do you fix tackling? How do you teach tackling?
Yeah, so much from a tackling standpoint. One of the things we try to harp with our guys is, there's no such thing as a solo tackle. And that goes back to the strain element of things. That goes back to the guys running the football, the gang tackle type of approach. Now, the truth be told, obviously there's opportunity for solo tackles. And so making sure, one, from a personnel standpoint, that you got the necessary speed to put yourself in a position to be playable on ball carriers as best you can before the play develops. As again, going back to that space and speed kind of quotient that you're always looking for. Space plus speed is a major advantage from an offensive standpoint. And so you're trying to eliminate those things. Can we put ourselves in a position from a schematic standpoint, personnel standpoint, and simply strain to the football that we have a chance to, before an opponent can get to max velocity, to give ourselves the best chance to get them on the ground. And then two, making sure that there's more bodies at the point of attack than simply one. And then the final phase of things is just that, being an elite tackle team. And our approach, I mean, a lot of people use the term rugby tackle or the phrase rugby tackle. We would be similar that way as we go into the actual specifics. But it's a critical element of things. Every down in football requires just that. An individual on the opposite side of the ball that's carrying the football has to go to the ground. So that's not extra credit to get the ball carrier on the ground. So that's something that's constantly working. I don't know the deficiencies in the past, but obviously that's something that is a constant in defensive football.
Ryan Abraham, USCfootball.com. Alex, after the Bedlam game, how crazy was that 24 hours, and how difficult was that decision to actually get on the plane?
Yeah, no, I think I'm still not over the fact that we didn't win that game. We won a lot of games in our time at Oklahoma and loved our time there. But so I appreciate you bringing up one of the few that we lost. But in any event, no, anytime you have an opportunity to be a part of elite leadership, that's very rare in sport. It's not talked about enough. It's so often whether it's a college head coach or coaches in general kind of turn into characters in terms of how people kind of look at them. But when you see the inner workings, when you have an opportunity to be, I'll say it again, under the elite leadership as an assistant coach, that's very rare in this business. To be under elite leadership at elite institutions, now all of a sudden is opportunities that you don't want to pass up. And so had a tremendous opportunity to work for Coach Riley at the University of Oklahoma, and a tremendous opportunity to work at another elite place in USC. So very excited to do that.
Hey, Coach. Mark Holton, familiarity.com. Welcome back to Pac-12.
Thank you.
You've been in the Pac-12, you're in the SEC, you've been in the Big 12. Thinking back, why has this conference kind of fallen back, so to speak, among the other major conferences?
Yeah, and I think you're referencing to the perception. Sometimes perception is reality. I think as much as anything, if you think about, okay, what makes elite football teams, elite programs, you're talking about obviously the personnel that's brought into each individual institution, how those players are developed, and then ultimately the product that comes with that. I don't have a specific answer that way. I mean, the consistency, as I've gone through what I think every Power 5 conference at this point, other than the ACC, is more commonality than maybe people think. However, I think as you look at NFL draft picks, there's obviously some measurables you can look at to see the talent level at certain places specifically, and in certain conferences holistically. But I think that's something from a developmental standpoint. I think that's the chief thing that you got to continue to look at. And again, you're talking to a coach, so it's very specific to that. Is how you develop the student athletes. How do you develop them to be bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive? It's one thing to bring them into your program. I like to think on the western half of the United States, I don't think that all of a sudden there's not the body types or the high school coaching that doesn't produce guys that have the ability to be high-level football players. Again, being in the conference, I've seen it, and so I think for us, as much as it's bringing in the right guys, I think that the thing that we constantly look at, and one of the things we got to focus on is the development piece, is making sure that we're real honest from a developmental standpoint. One of the things we use is combine standards. What does the NFL say is important for the individuals that they bring into that level? What's not Coach Grinch's opinion, Coach Wiley in our weight room, and and this is something that we used at our last place, was making, again, the guys in the room very aware of what it takes to play at that level. Again, the best high school players play at ours, the best players at our level play it in the NFL. And so really putting that in the guy's face and making sure that everything that we do from a program standpoint is to develop those individuals. And so that's the challenge for us. And again, I believe that there's individuals on the out west here that certainly can play at that level.
Brady McCullough, Los Angeles Times. Talking about Coach Riley and his, his leadership. Everyone obviously his reputation is about his offensive mind, all that. You got to be there as he evolved as a head coach. Can you speak to the what about him and the leadership that you saw is elite, just the leadership?
Yeah, I think it's just establishing a standard across an organization, and maybe sometimes too is whether it's an offensive guy or a defensive guy, but in college football, as in this era of college football, there's a tendency to, the best offensive coach is obviously going to be the best head coach, and I'm revealing a little bit of sensitivity as a defensive coach when I say that, but what is so critical to an organization from a success standpoint is having a standard within the walls, a standard from a development standpoint, a standard from an academic standpoint, a standard by how people live their lives, and ultimately holding a group to that and then competing at a high level each and every Saturday. And then so what to me is so rare is not necessarily that an individual is able to call a good game offensively and ends up finding a role as a head football coach. But okay, in that role as a head football coach, what's their success rate? And I think you're talking about an individual won about 85% of his games. I say about. I think that's an exact figure. And as produced individuals on both sides of the football. And again, we use that term a lot around here in terms of a standard and having a standard for how we compete, how we live, how we do everything that we do both from a staff standpoint and as the student athletes under his lead. But it's hard to give you, an accurate description without being in these walls on a day in and day out basis. And also, when you talk about leadership, it's not on your best days. It's sometimes on those worst days, and I'm speaking more from a player standpoint, maybe even more so from a coaching standpoint, is having those guys in a leadership role that is going to be, have the players back and be in a position to be a mentor to them. As an assistant coach, you recognize that ability in a head coach.
Ready, two more, do Antonio.
Hey, Alex, Antonio Brown from The Athletic. What were those early conversations like with Dante Williams, and what was the process of recruiting him?
Yeah, I think when it comes to taking a new job at a new place, and from a staffing standpoint, obviously it's top down from the athletic department to the head coach and on down from there. And really what you're charged in doing is making sure that you've got the best individuals within those walls that also can develop the camaraderie and a true staff to put yourself in the best situation to be successful as a program. Some of that includes those individuals that you've worked with in the past. And obviously I think we got a good mix that way, big picture wise, specific to Coach Dante. Was a guy that an individual that we've known over the course of time. Obviously, you get a respect factor for several guys as you're in the business long enough. Guys either that you've competed against on the field, competed against from a recruiting standpoint. All that stuff ties into it. And then most importantly is having the conversation. Can this be a good fit for your program? And so you have those conversations as you look to not just build a staff, but ultimately enhance a staff, especially from the situation that we found ourselves in, come from Oklahoma. It's, okay, do you do same as? Okay, well, in so many ways, yes. And then in other ways, you say, okay, how can we enhance it? You mentioned Coach Williams. I'll mention Sean Nua from the University of Michigan joining us, and there's several others in other capacities as you go through it. But having the opportunity to visit and kind of share our vision for who we want to be, what we want to be. Are there advantages to sometimes having an individual that's been a part of the program only if they're good enough? To just give us the inner workings of USC football in the past, that has zero to do with him being a part of our current staff. I think he's an elite coach. I think he's an elite recruiter. Oh, by the way, I think he's a good person. The guy I'm thrilled to work with, and I mentioned him. I mentioned Coach Neal, Coach Odom, as our linebackers coach who was with us, Coach Manning as well, an elite staff, and very fortunate to have all those guys.
We're actually going to end on that one, so we have our next coach here ready to go. But thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate you. Alright, so next up, we have Coach Brian Odom, inside linebackers coach and associate head coach for defense. Coach, would you introduce yourself, some opening remarks, and we'll take questions.
Yeah, like she said, Brian Odom, inside linebacker coach. Thrilled to be here and be a part of USC, and very excited for the future and what it will hold for us all.
Who wants to start? Adam.
You're one of the big transfer additions, Adam Grossberger was kind of registered. One of the big transfer additions was Shane Lee. What do you see and how do you think he fits into this defense?
I didn't hear the end of that, but to start off, Shane Lee, transfer guy from Alabama. In initial talks with him, the thing that stuck out was leadership ability, intangibles, experience. Being in that program for 3 years, I mean, the way he talked and the way he carried himself in the recruiting process was pretty unique, and it's something that I think he's going to bring a ton of value, not only to the linebacker room, but to our whole defense and team in general. But like I said, he's got great experience. Started for them as a freshman. Had some injuries throughout the rest of his career, but he needed a change, and we're happy to be able to provide that for him. But excited about his intensity, like the way he carries himself. Comes from a good family, very, very focus-driven dude. So excited about Shane.
Yeah. If you guys too, if you want to take your mask off, ask a question, that's fine. We're all far away.
Ryan, recruitmentsports.com.
Mhm.
What was your overall assessment of the group here in the area, and once you got a chance to kind of look at the film and break it down?
Yeah, I think it's ongoing, and when you come in somewhere new, you want to try to have everybody have a clean slate, and the mistakes possibly that were made in the past, or they're in the past, and my biggest message to those guys that are still here is your actions are a lot bigger than your words, and what you do is going to be very indicative of how the future goes. So, but individual assessments of each individual guy, they're fluid, and they'll continue to be evaluated as we move forward. But we've got definitely potential in that room, but obviously there's got to be a lot of improvement made as well.
Sean.
Coach, congratulations.
Yeah.
Cody with
Mhm.
the radio broadcast team. Coach, when I think about linebacker play, it's usually mentality. What's the kind of mentality you're looking for in the guys in your room?
Well, that's a great point. When you bring that up, you want the linebackers to have the mentality of the person they deal with on, quite often on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully they can take my mentality, and I want them to be tough, hard-nosed guys that we talk about. We had a meeting yesterday about a psychological profile of a wannabe compared to a psychological profile of a champion. And there's a laundry list of things on each one of them, but a lot of those I bring up with Shane, those intangibles that we talk about, but also being a take charge guy, being the heart of the defense. Whenever something needs to happen, they need to be the catalyst in order to make that happen. So it's a unique position, as we all know, but with that all being said, it takes a little bit of development to be able to get there. Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the nomenclature of the linebacker position and sort of what you look for in each guy profile-wise when you hit the recruiting room.
Yeah. So obviously, when we recruit linebackers throughout, it could be transfer portals, could be high school. Our job is to develop the best the best linebacker room in college football. And so when you have it and you've got the standard that's been set on what needs to happen, which it's been done here in the past, there's been a lot of great players that have played that position here. So there's a standard to uphold here at USC. Having coached some great ones as well, you got an idea of what that looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, how they carry themselves, how they practice, how they go about their communication, their work ethic. So whenever you put all that stuff in there, obviously when they walk through the door, there needs to be measurables, and there's instant measurables and if they don't have the measurables, then you wouldn't recruit them anyway. And what I'm talking about is not only height, weight, speed, strength, but intelligence. Are they a good football player? Are they productive? Are they a multi-sport guy? Is their potential are they tapped out already as far as their size is concerned? What's their ceiling look like? Because we're going to ask a lot of those linebackers to do a lot of different things. They're going to be involved in everything up front. They'll be involved with coverage. And also they've got to, like I was saying earlier, they've got to be really the heart and soul of the defense in terms of getting guys lined up and be able to communicate out there in a high-level situation. Yeah.
Anthony Green from Daily Trojan.
Mm-hmm.
What stood out so far from this linebacker group, just from your early experiences?
And I haven't had a ton of dealings with the guys so far. We're a little bit limited in what we can do with them this time of the year. But with that being said, I guess in the positive way, the thing that has stuck out with me is willingness to be coached. I think they do have a desire to be successful, and I'm not completely convinced that we all know what that means. Just because of the recent season. But with that all being said, it's our job to put that standard out in front of them. But they've done a good job in terms of that. I would like to see, just in an evaluation, like to see guys get a lot bigger and stronger and faster and know the defense and all that kind of stuff. But initial thoughts and initial observations, that's kind of what we see right now. Yeah. How are you?
Just with the new transfer portal rules, when it comes to building rapport and building that kind of culture you want in the linebacker room, or even taking a hard-nosed approach, how do you keep guys engaged throughout the year and kind of, earn the trust that they'll come back the next year and allow yourself to be hard on them coaching without scaring them away?
Yeah, it's a fine line. You think about. It's a fine line of what they can handle. I think it all stems from building trust early on in the relationship with the player. And then from that point, they've got to feel like they're being developed. And they got to feel like they're being developed to be a great football player while they're with me. And that's got to be an attraction for them, that they want to get better, and they've got a commitment to get better as a football player and as a linebacker. And they need to, and it's my job to make them feel this way, but they need to feel that they're getting the best linebacker coach in the country. There's nobody better, so why leave? So maybe I have to wait one season to make the impact that I thought I was going to make, but there's no one better to develop me than my linebacker coach. So a lot of that stuff stems from trust that's built early on, and the trust works both ways, obviously from the coach and the player. But as you combat that, a lot of it is going to be on the shoulders of the kid as well. Is he willing to be able to be coached? Is he willing to be able to go and buy in and go do it? And time will tell. But at the end of the day, in the perfect world, you never want to have to go sign transfers. In a perfect world, you'd love to develop kids as they go, but we all know that sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But like I said, a lot of that is on my shoulders to be able to be the coach that they need, to develop the guys that they need, how they need to be developed, and to build confidence within that unit. Mhm.
Again, been with Alex for a while. How is your connection with him kind of evolving around? And then what do you think is the defining characteristic of this scheme?
So Alex and I actually GA together for a short time at the University of Missouri back in 04, 05, I can't remember. Went our separate ways. He got the Washington State defense coordinator job, and he hired me up there. He hired myself and Coach Manning. He got the Oklahoma job, hired myself and Coach Manning. Got the USC job, hired myself and Coach Manning. So there's a common thread there. There's a lot of familiarity within that room, especially with us three. Obviously, Coach Williams and Coach Newell are going to be outstanding additions that I'm excited to be able to work with. But in terms of my familiarity, we see a lot of the things the same way. I'm very familiar with his scheme and how to coach it. And being able to sit there and talk about one word, it's hard to put into words, but fast and physical.
Keely, you're the last one.
Hi. Yeah.
How do you feel about your depth at inside linebacker, and do you anticipate going back to the portal going forward?
So I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
How do you feel about your depth at inside
Mhm.
linebacker, and do you anticipate going to the portal more going forward?
Oh, I don't think that we would ever cross off the list and say, well, we won't go back into the portal. Time will tell what will happen. And then as we look at the depth, as we move forward, we'll know a lot more in spring ball, as in terms of what our depth actually is and what can be, and who can make an impact and who needs more time. But with that being said, time will tell on kind of both of those.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Next up, we have Coach Roy Manning, outside linebackers coach, nickels coach, and assistant head coach for defense. Coach, if you would please introduce yourself, you make some opening remarks, and we'll take questions.
Yeah, Roy Manning, as she stated, outside linebackers, assistant head coach for defense. Really excited to be here. Have some familiarity, obviously, in the Pac-12 at two other schools, but couldn't be more ecstatic to be here. Father, two little ones, twins. They were actually born here in Los Angeles, so this is a special place to me. And just looking forward to get going, working with our players and this program and getting this thing going in the right direction. So.
Start with Ryan, right here in front.
Ryan, Sports.com. Just talked to Brian about his connection with Alex, kind of have the same background. How has your relationship evolved over all those years, and what's the value of having that history together?
It's been great. Had the opportunity to meet Alex 6 or 7 years ago when he took over at Washington State. And from the day I met him, I knew a few things about him, that he was highly driven, highly motivated, is wired, what I would say, the right way in terms of a person that players would want to be led by or gravitate towards, and really have hit it off since then and being able to implement this defense now. This will be our third stop, so extremely comfortable with Alex and with the schematics and so forth and so on of the defense. And again, just looking forward to getting that to our players and getting them up to speed so they can also, have that shared vision with what we expect when they hit the field.
Hey there, Roy. Dan Greenspan with the Associated Press. We hear the different titles, outside linebackers, nickels. what is that going to mean in terms of sort of the on-field and meeting room interactions? How do different guys, your interactions with them going to take shape, depending on, like, you know, you could have corners maybe working with you as nickels, or outside linebackers maybe altering between defensive line pass rush, and just how does that all work?
Sure, and that's a great question. I know people are probably wondering that. At Washington State, my title was outside backers just alone, but I coached the nickels and the rushes, which are two different positions. But schematically, the structure of the defense was a 3-4, and so a lot of the things that they did, although different positions, there was a lot of carryover as it relates to the coverage aspects of things. And so what that inevitably allowed me to do was be able to transition, as you know, the last few years into coaching in the secondary as well, having that background. Now here, obviously the defense has evolved as the years have gone on, and the different things we do with certain positions and all the ins and outs of that. I won't bore you with that, but the point is the point. I've had the luxury to coach 3 different positions in this defense, and so just very familiar with the front and the back end. And so as we work out and figure out who will fit where and what's the best way to approach this current roster and how that fits into what we're going to be able to do schematically, we'll iron out specifically what players will be with what coach and things of that nature. But confident, just like in every stop, that we'll make sure that each one of those positions are being coached hard and that they have the expectation of the standard that aligns with ours. Now, I'm looking forward to obviously getting back more into the front, like we talked about with outside backers specifically. It's the position I played. But again, we'll iron out all the details with the players, and as we continue to move through, this spring, and who exactly will be working with what position. But you got to know it all. That's one thing I know in this profession. So.
Hey, Coach, Draw Martinez, USCfootball.com, 24/7 Sports. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To kind of pick up where you left off there with the evolution of the overhangs and sort of how that position has changed over the years, and you coach cornerbacks, and now you're able to bring a lot of the techniques and the things that you know from a secondary standpoint over maybe the outside linebackers and those guys. How has that changed? What have you seen from the offenses that has pushed you to have to put more emphasis on those guys that are out in the hash marks?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is just obviously it's not a unique thing to be a nickel defense in today's game, right? So everybody, very rarely do you find teams that play with 3 linebackers in the box, you know what I mean? And so we've had to evolve as offenses have evolved and continue to challenge you to make plays in space and spread you out and use tempo and things of that nature. And so, again, more of it is specific to schematically whether you're going to be a middle open team or a single high team, what coverages and things you use. That directly affects how you play that overhang guy, that nickel. Again, you can call him what you want, outside backer, nickel, you know what I mean? But the point is,
What do you guys call them?
we call him a nickel. We call him a nickel because body type wise, he would be considered more of a secondary guy out of that corner safety mold to play that nickel spot. But again, if you play a certain team, you may want to sub a bigger nickel or bigger body into that position, which typically hasn't been the case as of late, just because of most offenses are heavy 11 personnel, 10 personnel, where they're only using one tight end, and even in that circumstance, that tight end is an athletic receiving type of threat. But again, our big thing defensively is we want to be adaptable to whatever we're getting and not be pigeonholed into being out-personneled or out-packaged by a team. And so there are a lot of carryover to playing the positions in this defense. I'm sure you spoke with Alex. Our safeties have to know nickel, our nickels have to know corners, and et cetera, et cetera. And so we do that again so it can always, in our mind, be advantage defense.
Right, Eric McKinney with WeAreSC.com. You've had a couple stops in Pac-12, a couple
places where you recruited against USC. What was kind of your perception of USC during that time, and what have you maybe learned about the school in the short time you've been here?
Yeah, I was a hater, man. You know what, and again, when you think of, the landscape of college football and where each and every team is situated, and again, having this experience in the Pac-12 helped me understand that the Pac-12, predominantly the schools are in large markets. You know, if you compare that to the rest of college football, that's literally the opposite, where most college programs, with some exceptions, are in small markets, small towns. And so, the thought is, when I've been at other places, hey, USC, you're in this major market, this major city, this hustle and bustle, and you know what I mean, just a mess of a city, so to speak. And then you get here, and it's really pretty neat how this campus sits near downtown, but it's not a downtown feel. You know what I mean? What they've done with this campus, obviously USC Village is one of the most unique setups, I'd say, in college football anywhere. Where you think you're hopping on buses or using public transportation. I mean, you literally, you're doing quite the opposite. It's skateboards and what are those things called? Scooters and things like that. And really, you don't have to use those to get around. So I've been pleasantly surprised. And again, I think it's an advantage for us now being, I guess, on the inside and on this side of things, seeing it. So. But, you're always going to have that in recruiting, where everybody's going to try to look for things where I look at it, or we look at it, as a positive to be in a market like this, where people may try to use those negative things against you. But it'd be a hard thing to try to beat once someone actually gets here and they see it like, okay, this is legit, this is a good deal here. So. One thing it does is you can't cut ties with recruits now, in terms of, the days of, signing day and you don't get the guy you want. You go on Twitter, you unfollow them, all those things, and you move on, wish them luck, whatever it is. But, you kind of lay that relationship, so to speak, to rest. And now, just knowing the potential with the portal, you could have the same kid in a year or two down the line. That has to change that recruiting process for you, in the interim or whatever it is. So I think that's a difference. I think that you have to, obviously, as you're evaluating high school kids, you have to compare them, or, stand them up next to not just high school kids in their class, but now, a transfer guy that you could get in the portal. Is this kid in this 2023 class, will he be better than a guy that I can get a year from now or 2 years from now in the portal? That's a real question. And again, not to speak for anybody else, but the chances are he's probably not, because those guys that are in the portal are going to have a year of college experience, whether that's maturity, whether that's physical development. You know what I mean? And again, it doesn't probably affect that top cut or that top whatever that number is of high school prospects, but some of those guys that's on the line, or that next tier of guys, obviously we're all seeing it. It probably can affect their options as it has, like with the junior college. So I just think you just have to be way more aware in the recruiting process. You got to vet them more, and you have to make sure that the kid you do sign, particularly if he's out of high school, he better be a good one. Otherwise, you're going to want to out-recruit him. No, that's a great question, and it's exactly just that. And again, I don't think it's a secret, but our recruiting profile is recruit guys that can do multiple things. You won't find us recruiting a safety that looks like me. That you say, hey, if it doesn't work out as safety, he'll be a linebacker. Well, we don't want to recruit that guy, to be honest with you, because, again, what you're really saying is he's probably a safety that can't run very well, right? And so, again, we have been in our past just very cognizant of recruiting guys that fit the profile to say, okay, this guy can be a safety, a nickel, or a corner. And that's just based on, what does he do best as opposed to what he's limited, enough to do or can't do. And again, to your point, the majority of college football is 10 and 11 personnel. And so as you've seen the last, 5, 6, 8 years, you've seen those bigger safeties now be linebackers. You've seen those bigger linebackers now be edge guys, and not just in college football, but also in the NFL. You've seen that the shift of body types and where you play guys is completely different. With a guy like Taylor Mays, man, that's a unicorn right there. That's the exception, right? And so, yeah, we have evolved that way, and I think that's important.
Last one, Mark.
Coach, going back to your days of hating USC, when you were recruiting, obviously USC is in a big city. You were recruiting to smaller markets sometimes. How do you compare discipline coaching at a place like USC to maybe a smaller college environment school?
That's a great question. And again, I don't hate USC. I've always had a huge respect for USC. Actually, played in a couple Rose Bowls in college and had the opportunity to practice in the Coliseum one year, which was a weird deal since we were playing USC. But I think that there's challenges on both sides. I think that the initial thought is, hey, how am I going to keep a kid focused in a city this massive, in a place where so many moving parts are going on, et cetera, et cetera. I think the natural thought is it'd be harder to do that. But, having been in, the exact opposite type of market, I think there's challenges on both sides. Sometimes when there's not a lot to do, that means you look for more things to get into. You know what I mean? You find yourselves getting into more trouble sometimes in, what you would think is a smaller market. Obviously, eyes are always on you as a college athlete. But, I think that in a smaller market, you can't do anything without someone seeing you, you stick out like a sore thumb, where I think the advantage of being in a larger market like this is you can separate from being the he must play football stereotype when you walk around a town, when you go out to eat with your friends, like I'm sure our players do in this great city. They can just be who they are, right, without having to always feel those eyes on them, even though they may be. So I think it's an advantage to be in a market like this. And so I'd use that in recruiting against anyone that would say the opposite. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Fight on.
Thanks, Roy.
Yep.
All right, we have a familiar face here. Coach Jonte Williams, defensive backs coach and defensive passing game coordinator. Jonte, you want to have some opening remarks? We'll take questions.
How's everyone doing? I see, some of you all got jackets on. I got a sweater on because, in here we keep the AC on all day. But outside it's, luckily be in Southern California because it's warm out there. But we'll blame it if you all are cold on Clark. Clark keeps the AC on in here.
Right, Ryan.
The biggest thing for me is, like I always have said in the past, I'm not focused on the past at all. So, pretty much regarding the majority of you guys' questions today, I would like to take everything from like going forward. Not really too much of focus on what has happened here in the past. That's, the past is the past. Everything right now we're focused on is making sure that, we win championships around here.
Ryan Abraham, USCfootball.com. What do you think of Alex Grinch's scheme? And I mean, it's going to take a little while to kind of learn what you need to do to coach the corners and stuff.
You know what? Schematically, I don't think it's going to take a while. And that's the truth, because one thing that, you guys got a chance to talk, to Coach Grinch, is everything is about being simple, right? It's being simple for us as defensive coaches and defensive players, but yet extremely hard for the offense to handle. So I don't think, that it would be hard at all, especially because he's an amazing communicator. So that's part of it. We have, a scheme that I think suits our players, right? It suits our coaches to be aggressive. And I think guys are going to go out there and play extremely fast and be really confident in their abilities of, at the same time, knowing what they have to do.
Hey, Dante, Dave Greenspan with the Associated Press. You said you want to focus on looking forward, but is there anything you learned from your time as a head coach that'll help you be a better position coach moving forward?
I learn things daily. I mean, I'm learning some things today right now sitting in this room. So it's not really about just what I've learned last year or per se, is I've learned so much in the last month, the last week, and I'm going to continue to learn. That's, just my job in this profession, to continue to evolve, continue to develop, continue to learn at the same time, making sure that, I have like-minded people around us, like around me. So, it's not just what I've learned last year, it's what I've learned way before that and what I'll continue to learn. It's like, once again, it's not really about what he said in the past as far as his vision. Is every day he's evolving, just like the times are around us. So I guess that's the biggest thing I will say. Is nothing that is stuck even from his past. We're not doing what he did per se at Oklahoma or what he even did last week. As the head coach, you can see his vision, and it's constantly changing to evolve with the time. So when you have someone around you that's extremely smart, that's done it before, like in the past, and done it at a great high level, I'm sure he'll continue to do that because of the way that, he works as a person.
Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Did you not?
What's that?
Did you raise your hand?
Yeah,
okay.
African, and you've now been a part of two different staffs here. What's changed the most, given that you've been a part of the two staffs? What do you think has changed the most?
I can't say what's changing most, but I could just talk about what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now is making sure, like you said, you have to have a great relationship with these players. So, all these coaches have came in here and they're making sure that they're building, the proper relationship with the players we already have on this team. At the same time, like I say, it's constantly changing in college football right now, and you have things like the transfer portal, right? So right now you can see that we're building relationships, right, with the guys that's on this team, but yet we're constantly recruiting, right? We're constantly evolving, we're constantly doing everything possible to make sure that we're winning national championships around here.
Hey, Dante, quick from Ross from everybody. Do you feel like there's a different energy about USC on the recruiting trail now with this new staff, or do you feel like kids are more receptive?
I wouldn't say it's a different energy on the trail. All I could talk about is like the people on the staff, the energy that they bring to the profession every day. And, this is a crazy thing. The moment that you start looking at this as a job, you will start failing, right? This is not a job, because a job, you go ahead and you punch in maybe from 8 to 5, right? This particular thing is 24 hours a day, because you have players on this team that something may come up or somebody may get sick at 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to be available. Right. At the same time, like I said, we're recruiting guys on the East Coast. We're recruiting guys, the Midwest and Mountain Time and everywhere else. So when you're doing that, you have to always be available. If a guy on the East Coast is free at 7 a.m. in the morning, well, you better be free at 4 o'clock your time Pacific. Right. So it's the energy that the guys bring, and at the same time, the want to be here. Right. If you have a want to be here, you're going to do everything possible to make sure you succeed where you're at. I mean, that's great, to be honest, because at the same time, a place like USC is supposed to be like that. You're supposed to come here and get your degree at the same time, move on to the next level, right? But the biggest thing right now is that everybody is going to get a chance to compete because there's no favorites for a particular role or a particular job. I mean, they're all going to go out there and they're competing for a role, competing for a job. I mean, you look at all 5 spots in the secondary, it's not a starter that returns. So with it not being a starter that returns, the competition level will be extremely high, and that's what you want because you want practice to feel like the game. And that's what those guys are going to do. Everything is going to be evaluated. Everything is going to be graded. And that's not just what they do on the field, but that's also what they do off the field. And that's what you want. I mean, competition brings out the best in everyone.
Could you talk about the recruitment process of Damani Jackson, just the, in the fold and out of it, and what that was like to get him back to come to USC?
Well, Damani's a, different kind of guy when it comes to recruiting. Like, I've never felt so close to a particular person, right? Just because he was been a high-level player for so long, right? So it's constantly, like younger, you recruit him through his coach just to make sure that he hits you up. And as he gets older, you get chances to where you could constantly text him or talk to him every day. So when you have someone that, you constantly recruit on a daily basis, right, multiple times a day, it's a little different and surreal when now all of a sudden they're in the building every day and you actually could get a chance to see him grow as a person, as a player. So I'm extremely just lucky, I guess, with everyone in the building because we all had something to do with that. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of people that, pretty much pulled Damani back here to being a Trojan. This is always where his heart was. This is where he wanted to be. So it's good to see all those things come into place.
Building up those last 2 questions, how ready is a guy like Damani to compete for a role right away? And what can you say about Makai and Terrell, the guys you brought in?
Well, Damani, I mean, right now he's still recovering from an injury. So you can't say, where he's at for a role. Like I say, all these guys are competing. I don't care if he was a 5-star, if he was a 0-star. I mean, the best player at that particular time is the guy that's going to play. That's always been my message, and that, won't change. You look at somebody like Makai, you take pretty much our whole secondary and add up starts probably, in this league, and Makai probably still has more than everyone combined. So he definitely brings on a leadership type of role. I mean, he was a team captain at Colorado. So you're going to get those particular things out of him. At the same time, this is what he wants. This is a player that came here to make sure he's developed to move on to the NFL. And if you're trying to get developed more to the NFL, you have to get used to competing. So it's nothing that's carved out for him. Nothing was promised to him but the opportunity, right? So that's good for him to already be in that particular environment where he knows he's not just showing up and he's the starter. He's, gets a chance to compete just like everyone else. And Latrell is a guy who knows the system. I mean, shoot, he knows the system probably better than I do. Just, for the simple fact that he had a chance to be in it for a year and grow and develop. And, he gets the benefit of, I guess, actually having a new coach in the system. So now he not only knows the system and knows what that particular coach asked of him from a coaching standpoint, but now he maybe can add a couple more things to his toolbox. So he's, just from day one, just stepping on the field, he's going to understand the verbiage, which is huge for a player. Everybody knows how to just run and jump, but the verbiage helps a player play particularly fast. And he brings that to the table. And yeah, that's another guy that's 6'1", 6'1.5", 190 pounds, extremely athletic. So looking forward to having all these guys out there competing. The transfer portal is just huge. You just look at it as far as guys that maybe like we brought up, Makai, just a guy who's played a lot of football games, and you get a chance to right away just pull it up and the guys he's competing against, right? Some of the guys, sometimes you watch film, you don't know maybe who that particular guy is going against, but with a guy like that, he was already competing in the South Division going against the same guys we were competing against. So you get a chance to truly see him play against the same guys we got to play against last year or maybe the year before. So it helps in that regards of you actually know who they're playing against, what they're doing, and you have a better idea of maybe some of the systems they were in defensively or maybe what they were being taught. So you could get a true gauge on like, oh, this guy was getting pretty much taught this, and I could see what he was doing right or what he was doing wrong. Sometimes from, you look at high school film, guys are taught all different particular ways. So you watching the film, and you may think something is a negative, but you don't know maybe that was something that was being taught. Or you may look at something that's being a positive. Like, it goes both ways. So I guess it gives a clear understanding of knowing exactly what that player was doing and if he was doing it right or wrong.
Coach,
Well, you know this better than all of us, right? Just in this particular game nowadays, if you play DB, you better be able to make plays on special teams, right? And part of the things I think that hurt us a little bit, and when you lack depth, guys aren't able to play on special teams, right? But when you have depth, just from a competing standpoint, guys are able to go out there and compete on special teams to where it raises, right, our level of play on those particular units. You know, you can win on offense, can win on defense, but yet that's still only 2/3 of the game, right? Special teams is actually a true 1/3 of the game. So, you know, the more depth that you have as far as quality guys that can go out there and perform and play, and if you got guys kind of splitting some time or playing, you know, not 90 plays a game on defense, but they're actually probably playing 55 or 60, now you can get some more of those plays back on special teams where it only ups the ante and raises the bar. So I look forward to all those guys actually being a chance to be able to compete, you know, for a particular role on special teams also. Thank you. If I don't.
All right, we're keeping it rolling. Next up, we have Coach Sean Nua, defensive line coach. Coach, if you could introduce yourself, maybe make some opening remarks, then we'll take questions.
Yeah, Sean Newell. Excited to be here. Married my beautiful wife, Hillary. We got 3 kids. They're still in a snowstorm in Michigan. So when we FaceTime, well, we don't FaceTime anymore because she doesn't like to see the weather we got here. But I still FaceTime her to tease her because, come on, beautiful weather, gotta share it. All right.
Hey, Sean, Ryan Hunt, coachofsports.com. You came from a very successful program, things were going well. How did they sell you on taking this job and leaving where you were living here?
Number one reason was family. I'm a West Coast guy. I'm way west. I'm straight from American Samoa, and all of my ties are here. My family especially. So, my dad has brothers in California. My mom has brothers and sister in California, and then my siblings live in Phoenix. So, it was that was number one, and then number two is USC. That's what we watched when you were younger. You know, when I was a kid, you watch USC, and then 3 is Coach Riley. You talk to Coach Riley for 5 minutes, you want to do everything he does. So I was on board, and I'm not saying it was easy leaving Michigan. I'm one of those guys that put my heart and soul and emotions to whatever I'm doing. So that was not easy, but Coach Riley and USC made it easy.
Coach Sean Cody, USC radio broadcast team. Coach, we heard Alex Grinch talk about the one gap approach you like to take, and that's obviously a D-line's dream, to hold up bodies and put guys in there. What kind of body tap are you looking for from your front? What kind of physicality? What are they going to look like up there when you line them up?
It's very simple. You want big bodies that can move, you know, like yourself. I'm a big fan of that guy right there. But you want big bodies that can move, and you know, obviously, the bigger they are, it's harder to move. But we like big bodies that can move, can penetrate the gaps and get in the backfield, be disruptive, and make it as hard as possible for those quarterbacks to do RPO or even whatever tricky stuff they come up with.
Ryan Abraham, USCFootball.com. You've recruited, all over the country for defensive linemen. Have you seen maybe fewer big bodies that can move on the West Coast than we've seen in years past? It seems to be a trend. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
They're out there. You just got to find them, and as you recruit them as a younger age, you got to motivate them, inspire them, and keep pushing them and challenge them to stay with the game of football. I think they're out there. I haven't been really in the West Coast a lot. I was at the Naval Academy for a long time, and then Michigan, a little short stint at Arizona State. But so you try to stay there. But D linemen, O linemen, quarterbacks, you got to go all over the place to find those. And I think they're harder to find because they are, but they're out there.
Adam Grossbarger, Rich County Register. Depth was an issue on the defensive line for USC last year. What's your evaluation of where you are at that position on the roster right now?
We haven't been here long enough to give you a honest or complete evaluation of the depth or where we are, but I guess the right word is we are encouraged with what we've seen so far. They are a competitive unit. The numbers are low. It's why we're jumping into the portal and try to get as much help as possible depth-wise. But when it comes to skill set and competitive mindset, I think we got some in that room. So it's encouraging.
Hey, Sean, Dan Greenspan with the Associated Press. You've obviously seen success at the highest level from your time with Pittsburgh. What did you see? What did you learn from that helped you connect and teach up younger players?
Culture over everything. Culture of discipline, culture of positive chemistry. Everybody bought in, be on the same page. Unselfish players, coaches, everybody that's in the building pulling the same weight, pulling the same direction. That's more important than any scheme. And I think the players and the coaches as well, everybody is seeing and feeling that from Coach Riley's program right now. We value culture. And Pittsburgh, Michigan, Naval Academy, culture is first, culture is right, and it's aligned with everybody's beliefs and everybody's on board. It'll make any scheme right. It's nuts. It's crazy. Sorry, I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but it's there's a lot of challenges, a lot of advantages, but you have to have a very good system in it, because it could help you, it could hurt you. But the time of us having to help develop young men, it's almost like cut short now, because if you don't develop, they leave, or if other players in the other program say, oh, I could get developed in that program better, they jump in the portal or whatever it is. It's a great challenge, but us coaches, that's our job. Figure out a way to get around these challenges, get through it. So I'm excited to see what we can do with it.
Speaking of the portal,
Yep.
you got Tyrone Taleni.
Yes, Tyrone Taleni.
Out of Kansas State, can you talk a little bit about him, what you saw from him? He's an American Samoa guy. Was there just that?
He's going to want me to tell you Western Samoa guy. Yeah.
We need to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
Sorry. I apologize. Can you talk
Nah,
a
it's
little
good.
bit
It's the
about
same
him
thing.
And what you saw from him, didn't play a whole lot in Kansas State.
Yep. If you follow him all the way back to his days in when he first started, he's a young man that's very mature. He served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he started late with his football career. I think the best football is ahead of him. And his maturity level, first time I talked to him, was out off the charts. And everybody I talked to, from the coaches, his old coaches, talk about his toughness, and the same thing, his best football is ahead of him.
Sean, we talked to Brian Roy, who's been with Alex for a long time. You come in fresh to this defensive scheme. What stood out to you right away talking to Alex about what he does and how he runs things?
Attack. It's an attack scheme, and attack, rip and run. So it's a great scheme. It's a great scheme. It's our scheme. We love it, and the players are going to learn to love it. And what better way to do it than just attack it? So simple as that.
Antonio?
Hey, Sean, Antonio Morales from the Athletic. You talked about culture a bit. You were at Michigan, had a tough season in 2020. You had a bounce back in the this past year. This is a program that had a tough season last year and quickly bounced back. What kind of work is necessary to kind of, rebound like that?
We take it one day at a time, trust the process and the plan that Coach Riley has put in front of us, and then help enforce it, help live it, and just take it one day at a time. It's a brick by brick thing, and we got to suffer the pain of discipline right now, or we're going to suffer the pain of regret later. So it's a very simple plan, and it's a very effective one. So brick by brick.
Hi, Coach. Mark Holton, USC. When you talked about transfer portal, when you're working with elite players, when you start getting into hosting bowl games and playoffs, how do you convince the guys or players to stick around and finish what they started?
That's why it's so important to have a culture of love and respect within each other. The way that they love each other, they mess with each other, everything they do. Because then it's hard for them to stay out, sit out, even if it's just a small bowl game. You know, it matters because they love the brother that they're playing with. So if we can get that culture here, we are going to get it here. And I think that's the only way to do it, you know, because every individual has different plans and stuff, but you develop that culture, it makes it simpler.
Coach Eric McKinney with wearesc.com. How would you describe yourself as a coach? What are you stressing?
Mental toughness, very, very important. Emotional toughness, intelligence, you got to be smart. Those are the things I emphasize. And every individual is different. You got to find ways to push them, challenge them, inspire them, teach them. And then there it is. Find a way to push them.
Ryan Abraham again. Have you been able to evaluate the guys you have that are currently on the roster so far?
Yeah, very little. We're still collecting data on them, but like I said earlier, very encouraged with what we see so far.
This might be a little redundant then, but just Corey Foreman had, kind of a limited role as a freshman last year. What do you envision for him moving forward with his career?
He has all the talent in the world, and he's going to be pushed. He wants to be pushed, and it's time for him to shine. So Coach Manning and myself will get everything out of him. Anything else?
You mentioned you being out here and the power of USC. What was your connection with the program growing up?
Junior Seau, man. I mean, there's a long list of guys from junior to Troy to those two young men over there. Loved it. Loved the way they play the game. Thank you, guys. Fight on.
Thank you. We all having fun? Perfect. We're gonna be moving over to the offensive side of the ball now. Give me a couple minutes. That one finished a little early. You guys never do that. That's weird.
I could have kept going. I just decided like that.
I have a question for the media. This is Sean Cody, USC Sports Radio. I know there might be some tension between Keely and Ryan there. What's the tension? Moving forward, how does that work?
That to me.
Future. Talking about the past.
That was good. You're running out funny. That's good.
Oh, we have some more questions. Yes.
Recently done an interview with Brian. I hope that does not affect our relationship.
I'm thinking about that too, going forward. I'm excited to read everybody's stories. Woo.
Be full for next week.
No, all the content, right?
All the content.
All the content.
Pretty stock there. Great team, right?
I think 2 hours of testimony, all of your last time. Especially when you so I think it's
Right. We had our intermission. Okay. Now up, we have Coach Dennis Simmons, Assistant Head Coach, Outside Wide Receivers Coach, and Offensive Passing Game Coordinator. Coach, will you introduce yourself, make some opening remarks, then we'll take some questions.
Hey, how you guys doing? Sorry for the tardiness. Apologize. Try not to make that a habit. My name is Dennis Simmons. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I am married. I have 2 kids. Wife is named Tasha, son is named Cannon, and daughter is named Kendall.
All right.
Dennis, Brian Young, TreasureSports.com. Interested in just the timeline of how this came together. Lincoln's hiring was so fast. How did you decide to be on that plane the next morning, less than 24 hours later?
Twofold. One, the relationship, the friendship, and the brotherhood that Lincoln and I share is, one of a very strong bond. So when he called, there really wasn't much more discussion that was needed. I mean, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I need you there. So I was like, what time and where?
USC is in the past has had receivers who kind of line up all over the field. Now, like this designation between inside outside, how do you guys determine who you're working with, things like that?
Well, that's something that actually kind of is a never-ending, always moving target. We will move guys around, so you don't have to worry about that.
they'll be multifaceted there in that aspect. And really during practices, what it really involves too is, you know, Dave is on one side of the field, I'm on the other side of the field. We break it up more so with how we meet. The X's and the Z's meet with me, and the Y's and the H's meet with him.
Again, it's a training process, but can you speak about the assistant head coach title, kind of what it means to you, what the responsibilities will be?
The title, I guess, in a lot of ways, it holds me just as accountable as it holds Coach Riley. And you know, if for some reason if there's ever anything that he can't fulfill in a head coach's position, you know, I look at it as something, or if there's something that he designates to me to be at in his place, I look at it as something that I go and I represent the program in the same fashion that he would.
Coached up a lot of great receivers, but different body types. You know, CD is a different style of receiver than Hollywood was. What are sort of the traits that make guys great regardless of what their physical abilities are?
Well, a lot of that has to do with their parents and the DNA. You know, as you stated, I've been fortunate and blessed enough to work with a lot of different guys. What I try to do is just, you know, off of film study and evaluating what their strengths are, is put them in situations and that is able to put them at the advantage of using those skill sets. So I would say that within itself was honestly the biggest difference between those two guys. Now, the thing that they both shared in common is that they both were very competitive, and they both came to work every day with a mindset of competing and making each other better.
Ryan Aver of USCFootball.com. You guys got 3 wide receivers out of the transfer portal. Obviously familiar with Mario Williams, but Terrell Bynum and Brendan Rice, 2 Pac-12 guys. What did you like about all 3 of them and wanted to bring them in?
Well, the thing that I loved about Terrell, and I'm a big relationship guy, so part of the recruiting process was, you know, being able to get around them, get them on the phone, and have multiple conversations to find out not just who they were as a player, but who they were as a person. The biggest thing that, you know, both Coach Riley, myself, and the rest of the offensive staff wanted to do was to bring that right type of mentality to the meeting room and to the position group. As my gentleman over here stated, you know, you've had a lot of talented guys that have played here at this university. And one of the things that I think both myself and the group as we're going forward, you know, we want to, you know, hold up our end of the bargain with that tradition that has been here. So, you know, I wanted to bring in the right type of people and bridge this thing together, so when we're out there, we're putting our best foot forward and the best product on the field. The thing that I liked about Brandon is that, you know, in talking and doing research about him is his work ethic. Every coach that we encounter with in his recruiting process all said the same thing. He works his butt off every day at practice. The thing with the Bynum kid, his coach from the University of Washington actually texted me the day that he announced that he was coming here and was like, hey, I'm gonna text you. And then he called and was like, hey man, you're getting a great person. So, you know, when you have characteristics and you have people willing to go out of their way to do things like that, then you kind of get the idea that, hey, you know, I'm on the right path. Now obviously we gotta put the work in and do some things this spring and this summer to make sure that we live up to everybody's expectations this fall. But, you know, when you get affirmation like that, it gives you a pretty good idea that, you know, you're going down the right path and you're choosing the right people.
Charles Martinez, USCFootball.com, 24/7 Sports. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guy that you recruited out of high school, Malik Brown, played a lot of running back in modern day high school, but you guys want to use him a bit in the slot. Talk a little bit about splitting time and trying to steal him away from Common.
Well, at the end of the day, we want to be successful. So I mean, our deal is, you know, let's put guys on the field and then put them in spots that gives us the competitive advantage. So I think that'll take care of the whole aspect of with me and Coach Mack. the thing with Reliki is he's going to have to be able to come in here and pick it up. And he's doing some things right now to aid with that. His athletic skill set. I mean, you guys, you're in the sports world, so I mean, I think we all could agree that his skill sets. He's able to do some things on the field that is truly dynamic. So with the combination of putting him in space and putting him in situations where he could take advantage of one-on-one coverage, I think whether it's the backfield, whether it's in the slot, whether it's on the outside, I think nothing but good things can happen when we get the football in his hands.
Coach, so crazy, USC Radio broadcast. With the exit of Drake London, that's a lot of yards and touchdowns being left on the field. In the past, we've had a problem with only one guy. Moving forward, are you hoping that there's somebody that breaks out in the receiver room that fills those shoes, or is it going to be more of a collective group effort going forward to keep that offensive balance?
Well, my hope is that it's more of a group effort. And the reason why I say that is because if you got three Drake Londons out on the field making plays, then just imagine how successful our offensive unit is. So I would hope that, that void, which is a big void, I would hope that, multiple guys, take the bull by the horns, step up and want to embrace that role.
You mentioned your close relationship with Lincoln. How did that kind of develop over the time since you first met him to now? And then were you not shocked at all when he called you and said, "Hey, I'm in Los Angeles"?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I was shocked. I was extremely shocked. Yeah. That relationship started. I mean, when Lincoln and I have known each other, since he was 19 years old. So I mean, we've gone through weddings together. We've gone through the birth of various kids together. So I mean, when you've gone through transition and job locations together, we were together at Texas Tech and then went to East Carolina. I mean, I think throughout that time, it creates a brotherhood. It creates a bond, much like with our players in the locker room, going through off-season conditioning, going through summer workouts. I mean, you kind of create that friendship and that brotherly bond. And I mean, the respect that we both have for each other as men, and sharing the same values and views, is only made that bond stronger.
You got to see Caleb Williams last year in practice, in games. What's he like? What should USC fans know about the quarterback they're getting?
Well, first, I think from a receiver standpoint and just from a coach being out there and able to observe him, the biggest thing that I thought he brought last year to the team was those guys in that huddle all want to play with him and want to play for him. And that's something that you can't really coach. I mean, you either got it or you don't have it. And, those guys, with his presence and some of the things that he did, he made practice fun, not just for himself, but everybody that was out there working with him. And when you get, it's fun. Everybody is excited the first day of camp, but, day 15 or, week 7, and you've done this for, numerous days in a row, it kind of gets a little redundant. And, when you have a guy out there that has that type of energy and that type of passion that you're playing with, it makes the time go by quicker, and it makes those practice time slots that you're out there, it makes it fun. And, you're able to alleviate the noise, whether it's, social media, the media, what's going on with, in their personal lives. They're out there having fun and playing the game. So I think that was one of the biggest qualities that I saw in him as a freshman. And like I said, that's something, that's something you, in my opinion, that you're born with. And I think for guys, like Sua back there that has played the game, I think he could truly identify and relate to that. Not many great players can bring that type of charisma and that type of energy every day to practice.
We'll do 2 more.
I'm curious, you mentioned taking the leap, with Lincoln, what's your call, just go even here. What's the process been like for you personally, logistically,
It's kind of been like Groundhog's Day, to be honest with you. We got here, got off a plane, got changed, came over. He did his press conference. We were learning about, SC, doing paperwork. Got cleared. The next day, we're out on the plane, out on the road recruiting. So, I got the question a million times like, hey, man, I bet you're enjoying living in sunny California. And my response was, yeah, I'm not in California. I'm actually out on the road recruiting. So it's, now that signing days is over and we're finally able to get around our players and the team, things will start to slow down. I'm excited. My family will actually be moving out here Saturday. So I will get out of my normal routine of moving my luggage out of one hotel room to fly back here to put it back in another hotel to pack it up again to move it out to go out the next week. So that'll be nice.
We'll wrap it up with Mark.
Hey, Coach. Mark Polk at LeRC.com. At OU, you guys are known for big play capabilities from your wide receivers, but you guys also block really well at that position. Talk about how much you're going to emphasize that with the group of receivers and everything.
Well, if you won't block, you won't play. I mean, it's honestly just that simple. I mean, a part of our standard is, competing with each other and playing for one another. And if you're not going to be a guy that's going to play for your teammate when you don't have the ball, you're probably not going to be a guy that's going to have a chance to get on the field to get the ball.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
We all good?
Yep. This way. Keeping it rolling. We have Coach McDonald up next, running backs coach.
How are we doing today? Good, how are you?
Good.
Coach, we'll have you
Good.
introduce yourself, make some comments, we'll take some questions.
All right. I'm Coach McDonald. I'm the running back coach here at USC, and happy to be here at the end of the day. Very special place, and looking forward to talking to you guys. Be nice, okay? But where can we start?
Who wants to start? All right, Adam.
Kyle, Adam Grossmeyer from Coach County Register. It's jumping from Utah to USC. What was kind of that thought process going into the division?
It wasn't really a divisional thing or anything like that. Just an opportunity to grow. I'm a West Coast guy, so just wanting to get better and develop at the end of the day. And we've all grown up watching USC and who they are and what they've accomplished, the heights they've gone to. And I just want to be kind of a part of a staff that hopefully brings that back. Tough. Got to be tough. Got to be physical, mentally and physically tough at the end of the day. Got to be able to make some plays when things break down. It's not just about the plays that you're coached to do. It's all the ones. It's really about the ones that aren't perfect. Can you make that play? You have to be the biggest eraser on the field. So you got to be able to make those plays when things don't go right, and you got to be consistent. Just got to be a guy that wants to try to be the best, not only the best out west, but the best in the country, and I've gotten a couple of guys that have kind of been in that arena, and I really want to coach some of those guys that will be at the pinnacle of the running back position in the country. Austin Jones.
Having these two guys come over who are proven in the past 1,000-yard career rushers, having that skill set in the backfield, what does that allow you to do on offense?
best players will play, no matter how old they are or what they've done. At the end of the day, my job is to pull the best out of those players, to continue to develop. You got a guy like Travis Dye that had a great year last year. You know what I mean? So where do we go from there? And what is it going to take for him to be better than he was last year? You know, so just getting a chance to do the work, be able to be prepared, and be able to make those plays. The game, as you know, you've played. The games are won and lost in the preparation. You know, so really want to make sure that these guys learn how to prepare like pros, do things the right way, and develop great habits. You know, that's what's going to bring the success in the room, is going to be the habits that are developed that people aren't seeing. You know, everybody gets a chance to see what happens on Saturday or Friday night, but the games and the gains are going to be made prior to that. So we got to continue to work and make sure that we're prepared and ready to go.
USCfootball.com. Just wanted to see what's been like learning the Lincoln Riley offense and how different it is from where you've been in the past.
There's a lot of pace for sure. But again, the schemes are the schemes at the end of the day. Everything has structure. Everything has a teaching progression. So again, I'm really looking forward to the run schemes that Coach has. He's had a 1,000-yard rusher every year. I know everybody looks at the air show and the great quarterbacks, the great receivers that Coach Simmons has developed over there at Oklahoma, but quiet as kept, they've had a 1,000-yard rusher almost every year. You know, so I just want to be able to be a piece of that and hopefully do it better.
Coach Sean Cody, radio broadcast team. Coach, what's your mentality when it comes to rotation of the running backs? Are you one that likes to feed that hot hand when he's going? Are you thinking about situational for certain guys? What's your mentality?
It just depends. I've done it all. You know, in 2018, I had Zach Moss, and Zach was the guy. Zach was going to get almost 30 touches, you know what I mean? But then you fast forward to last season, you know, I had a 1,000-yard rusher. We had a 1,000-yard rusher. There was also a guy that had almost 700 yards rushing and had 100 receiving. And then you had another guy that had about 400 or 500 rushing and almost 200 receiving. You know, so depending on what the makeup of this room looks like, you know, is how it's going to be used. If there's a dude, then there's a guy. If there's two guys, there's two guys. Whatever it takes to win the game at the end of the day. As well as you know, situational football is football, you know, and being successful in those situations are everything, you know. So getting a chance to see what these guys can do at the end of the day and what roles they do fill, we'll see what our room is made of.
I think a lot of us were surprised when Travis died in the portal. You think us back to how that news spread around the office, what your reaction was, and how quickly you guys reached out to him?
Well, as soon as he hit the portal, we were calling, for sure. You know, a player like Travis, Travis is a unique player because he can catch it, he can run it, he can run for power. At his size, he's a tough cookie, you know, and he's very slippery. So once he did hit the portal, it was a deal where we really wanted to get him here. Thought he could fit a little different size-wise in terms of what Coach Riley has had before, but when you talk about the mindset of the player, it's very similar to what he's had. So it was definitely wanting to get him here as quickly as possible so he can see this place and make a sound decision.
How'd you find out who did you know that he was in?
Say that one more time.
How'd you find out that he was in the portal?
Because he hit the portal.
Did someone tell you, or you saw yourself?
I saw it myself.
Gerard Martinez, USCfootball.com, 24/7 Sports. Coach, congratulations on the new gig out here in Southern California. You recruit Southern California a lot when you're in Utah. You get a guy, Malik Brown, who's modern day, played a lot of running back, but I hear Dennis Simmons wants to use him a lot in the slot. What's your vision for Malik Brown?
My vision is Coach Riley's vision at the end of the day. So if he appears in the backfield, great. If he appears in the slot, great. But with a player like that, the ball just needs to find him in different ways, shapes, or forms. And I know Coach Riley's going to use him very creatively in this offense. So it's not like we're pulling and tugging. It's whatever Coach would like to do with Riley. No pounding the table. Everybody, I think even people on defense would pound the table for him. He's a very talented young man, tough, explosive, and looking forward to seeing him, what he does in this offense.
Coach Eric McKinney with WeAreSC.com. You coached some big time backs at Utah, but you've also found maybe not the 5-star. What goes into your process of looking for and scouting?
The evaluation process is a group process. Offensive coaches, defensive coaches, would the defense want to play against a guy like this, but when you're talking about the evaluation, you're going to start with his body type, his mindset, competitive spirit. Obviously, the agility and the playmaking ability are going to go ahead and be at the forefront as well. But it's just a long, drawn-out process of current evaluation over and over. Each game, you want to continue to evaluate the player to make sure that this player is picking the right place and he's right for us and we are right for him.
Player that came from the transfer portal last year was Darren Barlow from TCU. What have you thought of? It seemed like a really interesting player.
Darren Barlow can play. So I'm really looking forward to working with him. He has the size. He's twitched up. He has speed. He's a tough kid. So I recruited him while I was at Utah. Didn't get him, obviously, but I'm really looking forward to working with him. I think he has a skill set of some of the guys that I've had before, and looking forward to seeing what that looks like in Coach Riley's offense.
Both Darwin and Brandon Campbell kind of waited their turn last year. Were probably thinking that this was maybe their year. What kind of conversations do you have to have with them when you bring in 2 experienced backs like Travis and Austin?
Compete. This is going to be a very competitive room. It's going to be one of the most competitive rooms in the country. It's only going to get better. We're going after some of the top prospects in the country. So when you're talking about the USC backfield, you're going to talk about competing and showing up every day. And that's just what it's going to be. You make your moment. I don't. You do. So I plan on rolling the ball out. The best player will play. So if it's them, great. If it's one of those guys, awesome. If it's an older guy, okay. But whoever will run out of that tunnel first will have won the job, bar none, fairly.
Associated Press. There's a big game in town next Sunday. What do you remember about Cooper Kupp from your Eastern?
My punt returner, yeah, very, very special human being. You're talking about one of the best men that I've ever met, and even at that age. He was so mature, did things the right way, the work ethic. Everybody saw how he answered that offensive question with such a level of intelligence. Well, Coop's been doing that since he arrived on campus at Eastern Washington, so that wasn't a shocker to me. I know the world was like, what did he just say? But he's a great person, very intellectual, student of the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play in the Super Bowl.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kyle.
Can I go this way? Ooh, there's a pattern. Excuse me, sorry. Don't hold that.
Right. Last one. Right on time. All right, last up we have Coach Zach Hansen, tight ends coach. Zach, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, make some opening remarks, and then we'll take questions.
Perfect. How you guys doing? I'm Zach Hansen. I'm the tight ends coach here, originally from Linden, California, actually. So I'm back home for the first time in my career, which I'm sure excited about. So grew up a USC fan. Always dreamed of coming here as a player, all those things. So it's exciting to be back here. Truly just honored to be a part of this program. Thankful to Coach Riley, obviously, as all of us are, for bringing us here and allowing us to be a part of his staff. if Lincoln Riley gives you a call and asks you to be a part of the staff, it takes you about 10 seconds to figure out that you're going to come be a part of it. So excited to be here and looking forward to getting to know all you guys.
Antonio?
Hey, Zach. Antonio Morales from Athletic. Obviously, you and Annie have bounced around and working at different spots over the past couple of years. What's it like to finally kind of, I guess, from year to year, what's it like to be here now as a full-time coach and very active?
Yeah, no, it's really a dream come true. It's something we've been working towards for about 8 years. So my wife is our director of recruiting here. We've been at a few stops together, but never with me as a full-time coach and her in her full-time role. So obviously exciting for our family. It's great to be able to live in the same house as your wife. I know that sounds crazy, but for the past 5.5 years we've been married, we've lived together for about 2 of them. Both kind of chasing our dreams and never wanting to tell each other that you couldn't go do something. So, true testament to having faith and supporting each other. But a lot of great people helped us along the way too. Coach Riley included, and that has played a huge role. So, grateful to be here together, though.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the job.
Thank you.
Gerard Martinez, USCfootball.com, 24/7 Sports. Kind of pick up what Antonio said. We had Andy there, who's a dynamic recruiter. Most coaches get to go home and they decompress from recruiting. What's that dynamic like when you can bounce ideas off of her? She knows who you're talking about. You guys have some references for these people that are also a big part of your lives through the recruiting process.
Yeah, no, honestly, Annie's probably been the person that's helped me grow professionally as much as anybody. I have the very distinct honor of being married to somebody in the recruiting world, and on the administrative side of things too, and that's helped me a ton. I have dreams of wanting to be a head coach someday, so learning that whole side of things and being able to bounce some things off her has been huge in my development as a coach. Especially as a young coach coming up, and I think she would say the same. Just having a coach's perspective on things. Before she gets in that staff meeting and kind of bounces ideas off our whole staff. I'm the first ears that hear it usually, and so it's an interesting relationship, I'm sure, to so many people, but it's just become normal to us and something that we're really excited about. And as a coach, it's a dream to have the executive director of recruiting as your wife. So she's the one helping me reel in all the talent, when it comes that time. So, but she's awesome. She's awesome. You guys will get to know her too, and she's a tremendous person in our program and somebody that really does a great job for us.
Is that Ryan Young, TrevorSports.com? Because of that dynamic relationship, how well did you know Lincoln before this? And when he got this job, were you immediately start thinking, okay, this could be the time that this all comes together for us?
Yeah, I've known Lincoln really well. I mean, Annie was one of the first people he hired at Oklahoma, and so we've built a good relationship over the years. There's been a lot of trust, living away from your family and things, and just trusting that Annie can go to a place and work and be away from each other, and there's a lot of people involved in that. And our relationship with Lincoln has been great. I mean, he's been awesome in every step of the way for both of us. Been a great mentor to us, has helped us along the way, and when we were trying to figure out our paths and all that. And so have had a great relationship with him. Obviously, when he got the job here, was not expecting anything. I mean, he's going to hire the best people he sees fit for his staff, and we were in good positions where we were at. But when he gave us that call, it was a no-brainer. Come here together, be a part of a great staff, which, as you guys have probably seen today, a bunch of great people, and people that really truly care about developing young men and building culture and doing all those things that this place is ready for.
Hey, Coach. Mark Holkin at WeAreRC.com. The tight end has been used here, but the big receiver gets used a lot. What is the role of your tight end going to be, and how will it be used in his offense?
Yeah, the tight end plays a huge role in this offense. Looking at the past several years under Coach Riley's offenses, I mean, the role has kind of grown, and it's all dependent on personnel and the ability level of the group. But obviously, the run game is incredibly important for us. Number one, you'll hear everybody talk about the run game. Championship teams, you got to be able to run the ball. So we need guys that can block. But we also need guys that are dynamic out in space and can go make plays. They have to be smart. They have to know the whole offense, run game, pass game, everything about it. So it's a definite feel position, if I can say that. I mean, it's something where you're looking for those guys that have really good football sense, football savvy, can find those little holes in the defense and make some big, impactful plays for us.
You talked about the different kind of roles. Is there an ideal type that you're looking for, like out on the recruiting trail? Is that different than someone you might bring in from a transfer portal kind of acquisition?
Yeah, recruiting tight ends is really hard. They're hard to find really good ones, right? I mean, there's a handful every year that have that skill set, and there's a lot of projection that takes place. We're looking for multifaceted, different kinds of players. You want some longer guys that you can put and be more inline. You want some maybe more like H-back type bodies in this offense too. That probably won't be your 6'6", 250-pound guy because they need to be able to find their way up through some gaps or, go kick out a DN on a cross block or something like that. So, I think we're looking for multiple different types of bodies. I think the portal can be helpful, obviously, but really it's just finding the right guys to come in and fill those roles.
Offensive line coach at Tulsa, and now tight end coach, and obviously you have familiarity with that position as well. But being an offensive line coach, how much did that help you, or how much does that add to what you bring in the tight end position? Because obviously tight ends, when they come in, they want to catch the ball. Every kid recruited wants to hear about how many touchdowns he's going to catch. But being a complete player, blocking is a big deal. Is there anything from a technical side that you really bring over from being an offensive line coach?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's so many guys, especially in today's college football, that they don't learn that whole blocking aspect of it, not to the level they probably should or are expected to when they go to the NFL, if that's a dream they have. Unless you're in a true just like two tight ends set all the time and really working those techniques. There's a lot of guys that kind of go through making plays in space and all that, catching the ball, which is awesome. But then there's a huge development that needs to happen in their first couple of years in the league. So, I think absolutely being an offensive line coach can help me develop these guys as blockers, which in turn will help us offensively. From a pass catching, route running, all that kind of stuff. We do so much stuff with Coach Simmons and Coach Nickel and Coach Riley as a group where there's a lot of hands on deck for every guy that's out there, including my guys, in practice every day. So, our guys here will probably catch more balls than they've ever caught at practice every single day. They'll have multiple guys kind of coaching them when they see things, which will help too, get some feedback from some different people. And, we've got a great staff here, obviously, with a lot of experience and different systems, offensively. So, but yeah, I think being an offensive line coach at the end of the day, I mean, that'll help them tremendously with the technique and fundamental part of blocking.
What is your initial assessment of the guys you inherit in that room?
Great kids, still in the process of learning how each of them click and what their ability level really is with the limited time we've been with them. But really excited about the group I've got. I've got some really good-looking kids. They look the way they're supposed to look. They're big, long, athletic-looking guys that can run a little bit, and they've been great. They've been really, really sharp in the process, in the meetings we've had so far and stuff like that. So, really excited about those guys and to see what they can do this spring.
Coach Sean Cody, radio broadcast team. Coach, if there was a no-holds-bar wrestling match between you and Coach Nula, whom should I put my money on?
I don't know, man. That's a big dude too. I know I'm a big guy, but it'd be a tough one. Me and him are both lovers. We're not fighters anyway, so I think we'd probably just hug it out and be on the same team. So, my brother is about the same size as me. We're both 6'8", and we decided at a young age that we weren't going to fight each other because we were going to break too much stuff. So, decided to be friendly and be those guys with each other.
We haven't seen like an inside receivers coach at USC. How much overlap is there between that position and tight ends kind of thing, and having three coaches coaching receivers essentially?
Yeah, no, and to kind of piggyback off that a little bit. A lot of receivers coaches, right? We got a lot of O-line coaches on the staff too. You know, Coach Henson, obviously I was a former O-line coach. We have a couple of GAs that played O-line, coached O-line. So, you know, we've put together a staff, or coaches put together a staff with trying to balance all that stuff out. There's definitely going to be some overlap. You know, I think, again, it comes back to who do we have that can play both of those positions. You know, it takes a special skill set to be able to go get in the backfield, potentially as like an H-back or tight end, and then be able to split out and go be dynamic in space. So when you have those type of players, which we'll have or we will go get, you know, there's going to be some overlap with Coach Nickel and I. But, you know, again, at the end of the day, they're going to get to see him quite a bit in a lot of the things we do throughout practice. Coach Riley has his hand on all that stuff, too, throughout practice, and really make sure that they're doing what he wants them to do ultimately. And, you know, so we're all going the same direction there.
I don't know if we're going to talk about wrestling questions. We might end it there. Perfect. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Fight on.
Thank you.
We have a good.
Thanks, Ben. Well, that was about 2+ hours of content for you guys. We all happy? The boots are so comfy, and they're new. Awesome. Well, that closes out our media session. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks again.
Of course, of course.